just, oh, the rec, no.
It was
Rec center
Ella.
right here, yeah.
And the CRC was just built.
But the rec center, which is not far from here, the Eastway Rec
Oh,
Center.
yeah, where they're voting, yeah, okay.
That has been here.
I was talking about the, right here next door.
Started in about 5 minutes. Welcome you and thank you for joining us today. We'll be getting started with fundraising and relationship building in about 5 minutes.
Librarian by trade?
I work at the Lebanon Westbrook Regional Branch on Batesport Road.
Okay. So my aunt was a librarian, and I tell you, her and her librarian friends were librarians by day, but at night they were not. It always used to blow my mind. She's like 90 something now, but it always used to blow my mind. I'm like, y'all a librarian? I need to do a Secret Life of Librarian show.
That would be funny.
Like they were. They had a lot of fun.
So what is the timeline for finishing the main library?
It will probably, we'll get occupancy probably in late summer, fall of 2026.
Okay.
And hope to kind of do the grand opening and everything by end of year.
Okay.
That is, and we've been on target. We've been, the timeline has, we're actually not, I wouldn't say ahead of schedule, but going right along.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then the new University City Library,
There's a new, I didn't know that.
we owned the building, but the land we were on was a land lease with Atrium.
Oh.
And so, they needed the space back. And so several years ago, they started planning for a new branch, and it's gonna be our largest regional. That will open in February of 2025.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's spectacular. It's 2 stories and it's gonna be really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tell my kids, so I grew up in the Hickory Grove area, so I used to spend, I'm 45, so it was, I needed to use a computer or I needed a book or something, I'm going to the library, much more than my kids go to the library now. So we'll pass by the Hickory Grove branch, which is different from where it was when I was growing up. I was like, look, kids, that's where I used to go to do all my schoolwork. And they were like, what? Why are you going to the library to do your schoolwork? And thank you for aging me, children. But that used to be it.
Room, there's about 15 people online.
Oh, okay, all right. I think a lot of people went to universities. I wonder if they did. Yeah, because I didn't get so it was very clear that before you signed up, it said this is not the location.
Yeah.
You didn't get the right until after you signed, and they might not have read it.
There'll be a couple more people coming, then maybe you're ready.
Yeah.
Ignore my phone, I take notes on my phone. I'll try to do that.
Also, I'll definitely share this as well.
Oh, good.
So.
Hey, everybody who's online, we'll get started in just a couple of minutes. We are waiting for more people to come into the room. And so if you want to go ahead and if you have any questions you want answered, please let me know. I'd love to put those questions in the room. To get started. So, thank you.
I'm good, sorry. Traffic was horrible.
Oh, we're gonna have a few of those, so we're gonna get started. Please grab something to eat and drink. And we'll probably get started. We have about 15 people online. And so it will be, you guys will be my audience till others come. Did you come down East Way right here?
Yeah, I think, no, I came down, trying,
Oh, okay.
but I'm at Classroom Central, so we're on Wilkinson, and they do construction on the road, so as soon, it's like
Yeah.
traffic all the way back.
If you didn't come this way, there was an accident, so if you wouldn't have got any better.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, guys. I'm gonna get going. So thank you for coming and thank you for those that are online. My name is Jenni Gaisbauer and I am the Executive Director of Mecklenburg Library Foundation. I have been fundraising for about 24 years. I did choose it as a profession, which I didn't fall into it. And so I really have spent most of my career in two organizations. One would be Museum of the New South. I was there for about 10 years. And then I came over in 2013 to help start the Library Foundation. And so I'm originally from Minnesota. I have a 3-year-old and wife and live in Davidson. So that is my background. And so I appreciate you coming and being a part of this and those who are online as well. Today I'm gonna kind of walk you through fundraising relationship building. And this is has to do with first just fundraising in general, but then using the Library Foundation as a case study, because it's really what I know and how we've done things. And for those who are not familiar, the library, it's been around since 1903. The library had an internal fundraising team for 20-some years, that probably I would say from the 90s to 2008, and then when the recession hit, the library lost about 45% of their funding. Half our staff were let go, all our programming was eliminated. It was a really dark time. And so those four positions that were internal, they really did things like mailings, very passive, grant funding, events. They had something called Novella Festival, which was a 2-week author festival that was incredible. It wasn't a fundraising event, but it was a ticketed event. But it's really what our library system was known for. And so with the recession coming, they created these 39 recommendations, a task force here in Charlotte, which we're really good at task force. But all those 39 recommendations were successfully completed. And one of them was the creation of the foundation. And why that is different than what was already happening is they said, we need something that stands alone, helps raise the profile of the library, can move faster than our library system could do, which is, in library world, they move, if you've been in higher ed before, they move at the pace of higher ed, kind of slower. And so we were the engine. They wanted us to be the engine. And so in 2012, we formally started the foundation. And it was really exciting time. There was a new energy, a new vibe. Come on in.
So sorry, I'm late.
It was really bad and
Wrong location.
wrong location. Good to see you. And there is about 15 people online. So, and also there is something to eat over there, drink if you'd like. So just kind of gave a little bio on myself, which you already know. And now I'm talking about the creation of the foundation. And this will really lead into fundraising and relationship building, because I was sharing that we were intact. We already had the library already had a fundraising team. They called them resource development back then, of about 3 to 4 people, pretty passive, grant funding, mailings, whatnot. So with the recession and our library getting hit so bad, we created the foundation. The foundation is a support org of the library system. So we are 501c3 1. So when you do your filings, you're a 501c3. What organization are you with? 501c3. But we're a 1A. So that's a little bit different, meaning that a lot of our structure comes from our license, our 501c3 license comes from the library. We're also support org of the Foundation for the Carolinas. It's a very unique structure. We're about to break up with the Foundation for the Carolinas just due to the complexity of our business. And we also don't need a lot of the services they provide. So that it's a very cool setup, but it's a needed thing. And so when we created the foundation, we kind of knew we had one opportunity to go all big. We would have to do 3 things. One, we were tasked to raise $1 million a year. We were tasked to raise, to create a new event, to raise the profile of the library. And then we were tasked to work on getting our endowment to 20 million, to underwrite our operations. We are not there, but we easily exceeded the first 2 goals. And so that really kind of launched us. I'm gonna step back and easy information. You probably already know this, but this is the biggest part of, you need to know who your donors are. And so Giving USA, this was the latest report that came out telling us that $557 billion was raised in the United States. This does not include Canada. Where philanthropy is pretty strong in Canada, not quite like the US, but this is, and then, you know, what is it? 75% comes from individual. We all know that. We also know that foundations are on the rise. This could be donor advised funds that sit at foundations, which is really individuals, but you don't know who necessarily who that individual is all the time. And then corporate. I will say, Charlotte is different. And this is, I'd love to know your guys' experience and those of you who are online watching. My experience here in Charlotte is where we have had the most corporate is not 6% Charlotte. Corporate is more like 30% Charlotte, in my experience. Super giving, our corporate community has led Charlotte. Then I would say foundations, the family foundations are the next. And I think the ones who are getting off the best is the individuals. That is an area of huge opportunity in Charlotte. And we are gonna really have to start focusing on, we're focusing on way more than we ever have because corporate's leading us. The corporate community, globalization, they changed their giving models, their staff, you never know who's working there anymore. But corporate is really leading us in Charlotte. I'm not for good, but they're not giving at the level. So while we still get, personally, we still get a lot of corporate support, but that is because we are probably one of the widest mission type of organization. When I worked at Levine Museum, it's niche. It's very niche. It's history, it's community dialogue. That was much harder to seek support, especially corporate support. A lot of that came from foundation individuals. So I share all this is you need to know your donor. Who is your donor? What is your makeup? And you know, depending on what kind of database you have, you know, you define them by individuals, corporations, or foundations. You need to start pulling your the dollars you raise every year and see where the source is. That helps you know who are you dealing with? Who is your community? For us, ours is middle-aged women, highly educated, typically white, suburbs. That, if I had to create a model of who my donor is, that is my donor. So what do you do with those donors that all look like? You replicate them. So you try to expand in that world, but you need to diversify. And so a lot of our focus now has really been on the younger generation. And I'm not talking necessarily, you know, they always like online giving and younger folks and using different tools. I'm talking about like really understanding what keeps them motivated and finding, like, we have board members that are younger, 30 to 40 somethings who understand philanthropy. If they host something for us, they take the lead and they teach us. This is what, they don't even understand philanthropy. We can't ask them for this big of a gift. We need to get them in at an entry level so they just understand that it's their turn to start giving. And so really understanding your donor is the first thing you can do before you build relationships, I would say. And it changes, and you want it to change. But each of these different areas, different sectors, require different communication, different hand-holding, different appreciation. So this is what I would say is really understanding who your donors are, wealth potential, relational web. I always say that is, you know, like Charlotte's Web. It's really understanding who's connected to whom. And the longer you are here, the longer you know that. And longer you're in this work, you can tell, I mean, you just understand who plays with who and who's in the room at events, how you get to know each other. And sometimes you do have to create the web. You gotta say, you know, and create little brackets of who knows who and how you're gonna get connected to folks. Years giving to your organization, that's a really important thing as you communicate with your donors. They are, you know, consistent donors. The way you communicate and build relationships with them are a little different than someone's been giving to you just one time and you're just getting to know them. For me, I believe everything kind of builds off this information. You really got to understand your donor. And when I joined the foundation, the great thing was we were not only launching the foundation, but we already had a base of donors. We already had people who had been giving to the library for 25, 30 years and who they just needed to be energized. They needed to understand where we were going and we needed to invite them and have them be a part of who we are. So as I said, I'm gonna use the Library Foundation as a case study in this because this is what I know. Please ask questions online, please ask questions because people are still not here or are not coming, but informal. And so please feel free. As I said, we were created in 2012 to raise $1 million annually in the profile of the library system. I would say those were not weighted evenly. Raising the profile was more important than raising $1 million. You gotta do one before the other. People gotta know who you are. We also created a new staffing model. This really helped. And so the staffing model, good afternoon. Creating staff, so we're really small. We have 4 people on our team. I'm the executive director, we have a deputy director, we're both professional fundraisers. We have a director of individual giving, fundraiser. Then this 4th position, we had to figure out who do we want in this role? Because again, we are a support org of the library. The biggest thing is our message was different than the library. We're all about telling the impact story and selling the library. They're all about promoting programs and resources. So we hired a marketing communications person. That was the best decision that is the best decision we made since we started the foundation, is to put a marketing communications person in there to tell our story, help us tailor our story and our communications, and that consistency of storytelling and marketing really has something I'm really proud of that we do, I think, really well, is that trickle of communications. We also created an annual, and I have samples of it, and I'm happy to share anything with you. We don't really compete. I don't look at fundraising as competing. We share new ideas, and so we created an annual fundraising plan. This is our 5 goals every year. Everyone owns a goal, and it walks us through what you have to do to reach what is our fundraising goal, our marketing goal for the year. And then we have a very detailed calendar for communications, when things are gonna drop in the mail. So we're very careful and strategic about, we're not gonna drop something 3 days before a holiday or before the library does something. We also are very fortunate, the library has over 350,000 cardholders. Due to privacy laws, we cannot email to them directly. They can opt in to receive our information. But the library is very kind and sends out things to the cardholders, which that is a huge, but you'd be surprised at how many cardholders that does not translate to donor necessarily. So those two plans were really important to start off with, so everyone was on the same page, and we do it every year. And 6 months into the year, we do another planning day to say, where are we in our plan this year? What needs to be tweaked? Are we gonna meet our goal? Was it realistic? If it's not, let's change it to make sure it's important to reach goals. And then I would say, one of the things we did, we had a coming out party, basically. When we launched the foundation, we had press releases. We worked with the Leon Levine Foundation for a donor acquisition campaign. And it was a challenge grant they gave us. We said we were gonna acquire 750 new donors in 6 months for, I can't remember the grant amount, it's maybe $150,000. And we did, but it allowed us to market, and we created visuals around this campaign that we shared with everyone. We also got in publications and, we had some new magazines at the time and we sent releases asking them, will you do a story on the foundation and how it's working with the library? We had a new CEO, I was new, and our library director. So it was really looking at us as kind of taking the library to the next level. And that really helped people realize we're legit. And so we just kept beating that drum over and over because we knew what was coming up as we were planning for our new event. And so we created, in that same year we were started, we didn't have it that year, but we created Verse and Vino. And this is one of the biggest things I tell people, do not recreate the wheel, steal the wheel. It is, and it's a truth. So in library world, we don't compete. One of my good friends runs Chicago Public Library Foundation. One of my friends runs Seattle. We are friends, we are a support network, literally. We have created a library support network for libraries because we are all vastly different. We're funded different, we're organized different. Some foundations, most library systems do not have foundations. They have a friends group, or they maybe have like one staff member, a librarian who does grants for them. It ranges from nobody to like New York, who, is a huge nonprofit in itself, but they raise about $400 million a year. So that's the two extremes. And so we're all very different. And so St. Paul had an event called Opus and Olives. And so my colleague, Karen Beach, who helped really, she's been with the library 30 years. So she really created the structure of the foundation. We went up to St. Paul to see this event where they featured 5 New York Times bestselling authors in their city. We're like, we can do this, but our city's different. And we had to make sure we tailored it. St. Paul, this event was on a Sunday, early, kind of 4 o'clock, maybe 800 people. Yes, they had wine, but it was really kind of monotone. There wasn't a lot of excitement in the room. And one of their authors actually served as the MC. And so we changed it up. We partnered with Sherry Lynch, a radio personality here in Charlotte. St. Paul generously gave us all their connections to the publishers, and we started building our event. And so the first year, we sold out Weston 850 people, and people literally were coming up the escalator, if you've been there, and running into each other because there was no room. And we looked at each other, we're like, I think we got an event. And, we just took a leap of faith, and we've had the same presenting sponsor of this event since we started. They give double now for their sponsorship because now it's at the convention center, it sells out every year. And we're very fortunate. It also has its downfalls. It's an expensive event. And when you do special events, you really try to keep your costs at 35%. And so once you start teetering over that, you need to evaluate. If it's a new event, I'd say go up to 50 to 60%. That's justifiable. But as you have an event, you should be raising more and more and maintaining your expenses. And so 35% is really what the ratio you look for as far as kind of expenses to how much you raise in the room, or raise for the event. And so Versamino now we raise about 650,000, 700,000, and we net. That's the most important thing. How much do you net after you take your expenses away? We can net anywhere between $400,000 and $500,000. And so not a cheap event because it is a seated dinner with an endless amount of wine. And we do pay for that wine. The other event we created at the same time, well, maybe 6 months later, was Epic Fest. It's not a fundraising event, but this is a goodwill kind of event. It's a free family literary event, the same weekend of Verse and Vino, so it'll be November 9th this year. And it's at Imaginon, and we bring 8 to 10 award-winning authors, illustrators, and young adult authors, and children's authors in. And we get about 3,500 people that day at Imaginon, and it's a wonderful event. But these authors also, we don't pay them, we fly them in, we put them up. And they go and visit 2 Title I schools, each of these authors, on the Friday before the festival. So it really is a gift to the community, and we, the foundation, underwrite it through sponsorships. And we started this with a family. Again, a donor came to us asking us, I want to do something for my wife. And we had to get really creative and find, what does the community need, want, and how can we partner with this donor to make a win-win situation. So that kind of was our first year and a half, and we were off to the races, and we just had raised a lot of excitement, which really helped us. It helped us around building relationships, and these are kind of my things. Stick to the basics. They work. Stick to the basics with fundraising. It's not rocket science. You know, you work with individuals, you work with companies, you work with foundations. It is, as long as you stick to the basics, there's nothing I'm gonna tell you or you know that is unique to this profession. It is if you create the plan and you follow it and you're consistent with it. And so I always say steady wins the race. You know, and not every year is gonna be a great year, but it evens out. You know, if you just stay consistent. Annual theme. When we do communications, every year we kind of pick a theme. It usually aligns with library world. So intellectual freedom. That is a perfect example. Last couple of years, that is a big issue within library worlds right now, and our schools. And so intellectual freedom really kind of is the thread through everything we do. And so that is everything we say, everything we do. So I have newsletters up here. I have different communications we use. And so we do 2 new print newsletters, and we still do those because we're a library. We have readers, a lot of readers, and it is well received. We also, you know, give opportunities for people to give through the envelope in the newsletter, and we can tell how successful it is by those envelopes that are coming in.
You said you're mailing out newsletters?
We are.
Well, how about that?
How about that? I know. But it has worked for us. You know, if it wasn't a good return, we would stop it because we have stopped things. We also have e-news that we do every 3 weeks. And that is typically a letter from me promoting something big in the library is doing or a program. Maybe some news that you could use around planned giving or something around library world of like some new study. So we try to really gear it toward what our donors want to hear, and we do ask them, what do they want to hear? So as I said, combination of print, digital, and social. We're very active on social. Again, consistent communications. In every newsletter we do, we tell donor stories. Those are not, there's so many good reasons why to do donor stories. When you get to really know your donor and they feel honored, some will tell you, no, I don't want my story out there, and that's fine. But I think a lot of times we ask because it motivates and inspires others to give by telling their story. So plain giving, I think that is one of the best tools to use, telling stories of why people left your organization in their estate plan. That's probably one of the most effective, I think, for plain giving. And so we try to do a lot of that. Again, all the rest is really simple, but like timely acknowledgements. We have a rule. Acknowledgement letters go out and like every 2 weeks. Now, some people turn around in 24 hours. We're too small to do that. We are unable to do that. Now, we have just started segmenting more and more. And I would say, you know, we're only 12 years old. So the bigger we get, we are getting better with segmenting our donors, meaning if you make a gift under $250, you get an email receipt pretty much within 24 hours. Anything above, you get a letter plus an email receipt. Anything 500 and above, you get a special call from a board member or someone on our staff. If you're a first-time donor, this is one of my favorite things that it's not new, but I love it, is a video. It is a short video that's embedded in our system it's from our board chair. And it's less than a minute, I think it's 30 seconds, thanking the donor for investing in the library for the first time. And actually putting her email address on the video if they would like to talk about why they like the library, or if they have questions, or if they are upset with the library about something, but really opening that channel of communication. Last but not least, get on the phone. That is, I think, the most powerful, and it's one of my, I will be honest, least favorite things to do. And I do it in the morning, because I always do things I hate to do early, because if I don't, I won't do it. And so, and you all shake your head like, yeah, that's a no trade, you gotta do that.
But when you call, because most people don't even answer their phones, it's a number they don't recognize.
Yeah.
But
I call, sometimes I'll text, but I'll leave a message. A lot of times what I find is they just stick me right to voicemail. And I think that's still better than not doing it. And a lot of times they'll be like, why are you calling me? I'm like, I'm not going to ask you for money. I'm just going to thank you for what you did for us. So we're very clear. It's just an acknowledgement letter. I'm probably not going to call you to ask you for money.
Jenny, on the segment solution,
Yes.
you said you have some ability to contact card members, club members.
Yeah.
Do you segment based on, I can see this member has young kids based on what they're taking out, and therefore I'm going to try to target them for beauty content, and
Yep.
or are you able to do that?
We are not able to do that in our system, but yes, the library does.
Yeah.
So the library uses a special marking system, CRM system, that like they put them in clusters. So bedtime timers, I think, is children's. And so there's different clusters, and we can send specific communications to them, like Epic Fest, that will go to them.
Yeah.
And I also will say, we developed Epic Fest, but the library now runs it. So that won't be applicable to all of you guys. You know, I know we're a big system and they have a huge staff, but we created and ran it for a few years, but it was so labor intensive. And the library said, we want it and we'll run it because we're the experts. They know children's librarians a lot better than we do, and how to run something like a big festival. And so they run it and we underwrite it. But that is something I would say your fundraising teams or your foundations, we can move faster. We're more nimble, we're more flexible, we're just smaller. And so when opportunities arise, we can take them a lot easier than the library can. The library, you know, we are independent, they're an independent corporation, but they still get 90% of the funding from Mecklenburg County. So in essence, we run like a county organization. And it's really hard. Their hands are held tight on what they can do and what they can't do. And so it's, I think we play in that role really well to help try to start new things. And I'll tell you a little bit about a program we recently started. So donor appreciation. We do one event every year. It's called the Carnegie Circle. That's our donor 1,000 and above level. This was before the foundation was created. We had the Carnegie Circle already. The library did. It was their only giving circle. And they would bring an author in for an evening. This is the only time we pay for authors, I will say. We typically do not pay for authors. We do not for Versandino. They typically are on tour, have a new book out. It's part of kind of our prerequisite for them. But Carnegie Circle, in April, we're having Ann Patchett. That's a really big deal for us. We've been trying to get her for years. And so our donors are excited to hear her speak. She doesn't come to Charlotte typically, but this event, this is different. This was a really great event, but it was in partnership. So we took a chance on doing a donor appreciation event with a partner, which that doesn't happen a lot because you kind of get a little bit, that's my donor, that's your donor, you know, and you want to do it separate. But we did this with Queen's University as well as the Gaisbauer Foundation, and it was too good to pass up. The Gaisbauer Foundation said, we're going to bring this author in, would you like to partner? And the timing was right around Carnegie Circle. And I said, well, let's try this. We don't have to pay for the author. They're buying all the books. We paid for a reception just for our Carnegie Circle members that was segmented kind of outside of the theater. And because of the groups coming together, the audience was 850 people. So our message about joining the Carnegie Circle, about the new main library, all that, was now to 850 people. When we bring our Carnegie Circle group, usually it's like 300 people. So by chance of partnering, we seize the opportunity, like we don't have to necessarily pay for all these expenses. We can leverage this. And this is gonna be a really fun, as a social scientist. And that came and he was great. And so that was something new for us. Again, we're always trying to test things, especially if you're gonna save money, and seeing if our donors respond well to it.
So with University of Mecklenburg,
They invited kind of their learning society, which is their version of Carnegie, both 1,000 plus, and they bring 2 authors a year. And so we kind of all just said, we all split up duties. Like who's gonna do what, who's gonna market it, who's gonna do catering, blah, blah, blah. And it was messy, like any partnership, but I would do it again. I think it's.
So it was one time.
It was a one time, and then we just seized the opportunity, but we might do it again with Gambrel, we might do it again with Queens, because we were like, we're not, we're geographically, we're very close to each other, very mission aligned, and so, I liked it. It was different. So, just wanted to share donor acquisition campaigns. We've done several of them. And these, if you do them right, can be really great. And a lot of funders like doing challenges, acquisitions, and this helps you grow your base. And so they're usually for a specific period of time. You have a specific goal, and you go really hard and market it. So the first one was, as I was sharing, when we started the foundation, was the Leon Levine Foundation. That was, our whole campaign was, I love our library, do you? And so we had to get, I think it was 750 new members or new supporters, and they gave us, I think it was $150,000, and we did. And so, when you acquire all these donors, then you gotta steward them. Then you got to thank them. You got to keep that information flow going. And so, Book Club Madness. This is, again, I probably do have the best marketing communications person in Charlotte. She was an art director for Blue Choir. And so she is super creative and loves libraries and smart and just wonderful. But this Book Club Madness, one of our board members said something like, oh, I saw a bag the other day said, my book club's better than your book club. And all of a sudden, wheels were turning, and Maggie was like, ooh, let's have Book Club Madness, kind of like March Madness. And wouldn't you know, the first year, we got 187 book clubs, and that was like 1,000 people. We had 1,000 new emails that all were book lovers. The library now knows who are the book clubs. We have lists of all the book clubs in Charlotte. And so this is a new, and some of them, this wasn't necessarily a monetary acquisition, this was more of an email acquisition, but these are like golden donors for us. These are our people. And so we did a second one this year, and I think it was 176 book clubs. And so it's a contest, and they have to do certain things, either checking out books, putting reviews online, giving a gift to a librarian saying thank you for all that you do, rating, there's like all these different competitions that they have to acquire to get points. And the winner gets a free table at Versamino. So there is some good, a very, again, mission aligned. Anything you do like an organization, because we've stopped several things. When we started the foundation, we stopped several things. We had a 5K. Well, everyone had a 5K back in early 2000s. And so we said that has nothing to do with who we are. And so we got rid of that. We've gotten rid of several things because it's just the return on investment was not worth it. Something we recently just stopped doing, and this was a little harder to swallow, and our egos were a little hurt by this, but we had, as you know, we're in a major campaign right now for the new main library. And we started a community phase. We got a wonderful gift from Lowe's Foundation to do this community phase. It was called Around the World in 21 Branches, and we did festivals at our 21 branches. It was gonna take us 2 years to do. And we did 14 of them, and it was also the same time, this was like 2 months ago, we stopped it. Lowe's made a decision that they weren't going to align with any festivals anymore. And it's really because of the federal court case and that came down around DEI work and run equity. And so they just stopped festivals as a whole. Now, they had paid for the everything already, but their brand was on everything. And we had, like, I can't tell you how many pieces at the festival that were branded. But then we also realized the return investment has been really bad with this. It was great for the branches, it was great for people to come out and learn about the library, but it was not a good mechanism to raise money at all. And what we should have done is prototype. We should have just done one to see how the community responded to it, if it was easy to raise money at it, and then go from there. But we didn't do that. We went all out on this festival. And it did a lot of good things, a lot of emails. That's where the acquisition was. But it didn't do what the goal was, and that was to raise money. So we did stop it. And it was hard, but it was necessary. So these are just others, like Library Giving Day. This is in our world of libraries, and it's been around 6 years now. It's a national, it's International Giving Day. You stop Giving Tuesday. And to be honest, we raised almost just as much money from Library Giving Day as we do from Giving Tuesday. And we participate in both. We always get a challenge for both. And we do plan for it. So we're already planning for Giving Tuesday and thinking of what's the challenge gift, how much are we raising, what's the theme, and what is our cadence for emails and social media. So I would say if you do these giving days, I would definitely be prepared and plan ahead. Giving Tuesday is a great website you can go to and get all their information. And basically, Library Giving Day for us is pretty much the same thing.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for the challenge grants that you receive, are the people that are putting up the money for the challenge, like the Leon Levine Foundation, are they willing to also pay the admin cost to launch it?
Yes. Well, you have to put in your budget. So when you're writing a grant, so it's a grant, right? And so you're writing a grant and say, whatever percentage, 5 to 10% for admin fee.
Got it.
Every grant is different, and so, but most of the private foundations, you can add an admin fee to make sure, and they'll pay for marketing of that campaign.
Okay.
I mean, they pay for the t-shirts, they pay for we gave all librarians t-shirts for that during that time period.
Okay.
And so yes, they will, you just have to kind of do your research and find out. Some won't, but a lot do.
Okay.
So one of the things that was put on the description of this is, around innovation and fundraising. And I would say when the foundation was created, one of the biggest things was to be the driver of innovation because we could move faster. And at the time, the CEO wanted us to go out and test things because a year after we were created, we were told, guess what? We're going into a capital campaign, which is alarming and fear. It's very scary. I'm not gonna lie. But because the library already had a strong base, and we're a library, we're a large library. So it's not that people don't know who we are. But the hardest part around libraries is relevancy. It's really making people understand what we do, now, and why a 70-year-old who is white and privileged doesn't understand why people use libraries, because they did. And so that is our toughest challenge in fundraising for libraries, is the relevancy. Do people use libraries? Libraries adapt to whatever the community needs, and they change constantly. And so they're more relevant than ever. I mean, we have 350,000 card holders, almost 9 million items were checked out last year. That's almost double from like 5 years ago. And the people that are using libraries the most right now nationally, I don't know if it's necessarily the case for us, but it's 20 and 30-year-olds. It's safe, it's quiet, they can meet people, free resources, more and more people like realizing I don't need to buy books on Amazon. I really can download my books. I might have to wait a little bit, but all the resources that libraries offer, and the special programming they offer. So that has always been the toughest challenge. And so the innovation, when we started and the campaign was starting, that's really when we were asked to test things. And so these are kind of my things just to be careful about with fundraising and innovation. Your lead fundraiser, so for your organization, your fundraiser should always be at the table for strategic direction, for strategic conversations. Fundraisers always your head fundraiser always needs to be at the table. Your fundraiser should be going to your trustees meetings or your board meetings, not to necessarily participate to hear. And that is because typically your fundraiser and your CEO are the ones who understand what the community is needing and wanting. And so they have one foot in the organization and they have one foot out in the community. And their job, if they're good, is to figure out how to bring them together. And so if your fundraiser is not at the table, make sure they are moving forward, because they can play such a key role in moving your organization forward if they're empowered to do that. And always remember there's gonna be a healthy tension between fundraising and your organization. I always am in cahoots with my leadership team, because I push on certain things and they're not necessarily ready for it, or I'm wrong. That's the other thing is, libraries are very much, they have their way of doing things, and when you have a non-librarian fundraiser coming in, I've had to understand that tension and be okay with it. It's healthy, but it can turn really unhealthy if your fundraising starts wagging the tail. We have done that a couple times, and I think we realized and had to back off a little bit. But that could really hurt an organization. I could also say watch for mission creep. So let's say you had a donor who came up and said, I really want you guys, I'm gonna give you $2 million to start supporting higher ed. Western Central, right? Well, that's not what you guys do, right? And so, but it's $2 million. And you could probably find a case why you should do it, right? A little bit of mystery. Then you all of a sudden, your organization is figuring out like, who are we? What are we gonna do? And Karen probably would not go for that. But it's that those are things where your fundraisers can do that. And you have to, and the more inexperienced they are, you really gotta watch that. I've had my hands slapped enough to know when I'm doing it and when I'm not. And it is really hard to look at that $2 million donor and be like, I can't do that. But you need to say no. So this is what I've been working on for 10 years. So I just need you to look at this image. What I want to say in this has been a perfect partnership between the library and the foundation and the county on raising money with public money and building relationships. And so this, building relationships take a long time. We've been very fortunate to get 2 very large gifts that took us 3 years each. They take 3 years. I mean, we got 2 $10 million gifts, 3 years. Writing grant, going back, changing, back, and it takes a lot of time. And so I have to say, these things don't just happen. There is, when you read in the paper, oh, so-and-so landed this big of a gift, I guarantee, unless it came from Melinda Gates or Mason's wife, Melinda Gates or Mackenzie Scott. These gifts take forever. Those are angels. We have not been blessed with that angel yet. Some organizations in maybe in this room, but others in the city have been very blessed with that angel. We have not. But these take a long time, and that's just something to remember that. And we don't do them any different than we do any other gift. They just take longer. You have to do more research. They're gonna put you through the ringer on many things. But this has been one of those things where you just have to stick with it. We're not done. We still have $12 million left to raise on this project. And it will open in 2026. And, we've been raising money on this since 2018. And so these projects, any initiative you do just takes a long time. And so you have to be resilient in a lot of this. I wanna make sure I know there's more I need to share about this.
So kind of on that note, when is the cost of a consultant worth it? When you need revenue, and so you're like, I think I need to hire a consultant because I don't have time for it, but then we don't have the money for a consultant because we need revenue. So what should be the expectation in hiring a consultant? And how do you figure out the cost is worth it? What is it realistic to expect of that consultant?
That's a great question, and I don't use tons of consultants. I have used one for our campaign. I would say if you can find a grant to hire a consultant, or your board can all chip in to hire a consultant, I would say giving them 6 months to a year. It matters. Are you asking them to go raise the money? Or are you asking them to create your fundraising plan and your infrastructure on what you need to do? Or are they going out?
Definitely the plan. Raising the money. I don't even know. We need all of it. So
I think you could have a consultant that could easily come in and write a plan, get to know your organization, write a plan in 3 months, and probably get you scope. Do I think it's worth it? I do, depending on who it is. There's good ones and there's some not so good ones. You really I would use some people who have been doing it, like either consulting or fundraising, to help you pick a consultant. To let you know, it's like hiring. I'm about to have to hire someone, and it's like hiring a fundraiser. I do not hire fundraisers that jump around. Every year they have a new job and then they claim they raised this much at they do not.
Yeah.
So you really need, and unfortunately, this is a tough profession. We don't get paid tons of money. But there are some really great people who've been at their organizations a long time, and those are the ones who can help you to find a consultant. They'll help you interview them. Help them see who they worked with, and then go call before you even start the process. Because there are some really good ones out there. There's also just fundraisers, contractors that you can go and who can help create the plan. They don't have to be a consultant necessarily. But I'm happy to help direct you in any way, or you give me specifics you're looking for. But I think there are a lot of good ones, and I do think I would look to some of your more seasoned fundraisers to help you figure out who do you need. You might not need a consultant. You might need a fundraiser for hire, like a contract person, where you're not paying their, benefits or anything like that. They're there to raise money. Now, I'm not allowed to take, like, if I was a consultant or I'm by AFP standards, I can't take like a percentage. Some do, but that would not be part of a fundraiser's ethic, really. So you really need to just start talking to some seasoned fundraisers, and I'd say that's where you should go. That kind of leads to, like, one of the things, find your people. I used to be on the board of AFP. I'd get really involved in AFP. I used to do things with North Carolina Center for Nonprofits. And I've just been doing this long. I've kind of aged out of that, or I found something different. But for me, I had 3 or 4 peers in the community that I always asked, like, what do you think about this? Are my instincts right? I have my own little board of directors that's really important to have. But also for me, my people are really in library foundations across the country. And that's my people. So it's finding organizations to you, find your people who can say, that's a really great idea, that's a shitty idea. Like, you need those honest people to help you that know what they're doing, that are in your world. That really, for me, like, it's the woman who used to run Seattle Public Library Foundation, and Boston. And those are the 2 people I always call to be like, 1, what do you know about this funder? Or 2, like, will this work? Like, you guys are trying something new. Can I steal that? That's the other thing. Ask people for their stuff. You want my development plan? I'll give you my development plan. Like, that kind of stuff, people really should be sharing. It's not rocket science. We all should be kind of doing similar things. This for me is always, when I feel I'm burned out, I'm not curious anymore. Be curious. And this could be simple as reading the business journal and seeing what are new companies to Charlotte, new prospects. Reading Access, reading what's going on in your city, know the donor community. Be curious about that. Don't recreate the wheel. I can't say that enough. I think people should share, but also there are some great ideas out there. You just need to tweak it for your audience. Always take a meeting. This is really important. You never know what's going to come out of a meeting. I have been in meetings where I have dread. Usually the ones I dread are the best meetings I have. But I'll be in a meeting that all of a sudden, it's really, to be honest, how we got Tepper's gift. Is I was in a meeting who then they found out about the new main library project way before anyone knew about it. And they were a large foundation here in Charlotte, and the Teppers were new to the community, and they were helping them connect to big organizations. Just in the right place at the right time. I took a meeting I didn't really want to go to, and it worked out. So I would say always take the meeting, and always take a meeting from somebody who wants to learn what you're doing. Like, who wants to be the next you, or who wants your mentorship, because you've probably had that, and so you really definitely need to turn that around. And always need, and I always look at that as I can find my next staff member, see where the good talent is out there. If you do not like people, get out of this work. That's my last thing I have to say. When I stop really liking this work, it's usually because if I get down or in a rut, it's usually because people are driving me nuts, or I'm driving myself nuts. It's just, 1, take breaks, but 2, if you don't really like people, this is just the wrong work for you, because it is about matchmaking, it is about working, the joy of philanthropy and connecting people to projects, to initiatives, to your organization. And so if you don't, then it's time to leave. So, you guys have all the fundraising resources, but these are just some. The biggest resource is the library. Library has a lot of great free resources. These 2 know a lot about what they're doing, and use the library for resources. Association for Fundraising Professionals, that is the best governing body in Charlotte, I think, as far as the fundraising profession goes. Now, if you want to network, I think, Share Charlotte, it's probably better around the networking and getting to know Charlotte. But when it comes to fundraising fundamentals, that is probably Association of Fundraising Professionals or the NC Center for Nonprofits. If you want to start, if you don't have an endowment program or plan giving, another word, Foundation for the Carolinas, I would say is really strong as far as they have staff on there that can help you understand the different vehicles for plan giving and how to close them. And I would say with plan giving, if you are not doing plan giving, which you probably are, but if you're not, it is easy as putting up a shingle saying, we accept, and getting the right language, which you can get from Foundation for the Carolinas. It's the language that a donor would need to know to put into their will. It really is that simple. Everyone should be doing plan giving. We do it. We do a program, 2 programs a year, usually virtual. There is a guy in Charlotte, you guys probably know, but he writes for the New York Times obituaries, famous people's obituaries. And so he has like a lot of the obituaries already done, that people aren't dead yet. But like famous musicians and stuff. He did a program for us of how to write your own obituary. It was brilliant. And my colleague created the program. She gets all the credit. But it was a really fun way to learn about plan giving. I've seen a lawyer will do a plan giving program for you in person or virtually. But plan giving, those are gifts that just keep giving. I mean, they're just nice surprises. Last year, we put it on everything we do. So newsletters, we do it on our giving forms. Like I have included so-and-so in the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library Foundation in my estate plans. That, if you just doing that, at least lets people know that your shingle is up and you accept those gifts. Now, if you get a complicated gift, like I want to sell my business and give the proceeds to Classroom Central, then you call Foundation for the Carolinas if you don't have that expertise, and they can walk you through that. But for the most part, most gifts, plan gifts, you're included in my estate, my will. I mean, that is pretty much the basics. And some years, I think last year we made $400,000 in plan gifts. And then the year before it was like 50. You just really don't know, but you at least have to let people know. And then telling stories, again, back to that storytelling about donors who have left gifts in their estate for you. It is those donors who give you $10 a month. It really are those donors that are most likely going to be ones who put you in their estate and are sitting on a lot of resources and have been frugal all their lives. And those are the days that everyone is screaming in the office, running around with the check, and you're like, oh my God. They're the best. But North Carolina Plan Giving Council is very strong. They do a lot of great programs in North Carolina. So that also is another great resource. And so I went over a lot. I think we still have some time. I'm willing to take any questions. I also have some materials up here you can take. And I got enough swag for everyone. You look sweaty? Well. Yes, thank you. So any questions for you guys or online? Are they able to ask questions? Okay, good. And I'll make this available for you again. And if there's something more detailed you want to know, like talk about, like how to do a sponsorship or whatever, let me know. I kind of just kept it broad just because I think there was probably a lot of different experience levels in here and online that I didn't quite know, so.
I've got one, Jenny.
Yeah.
So how do you coach your board members to become fundraisers in terms of using them and their networks in natural, accessible ways?
Thank you. Yes, that's a great question. And actually, I have two really strong examples that just happened this year. That's why I remember them. One is, so our foundation has a board. It's 23 people, capacity 25, and they are advisory board. The trustees, the library trustees are appointed by the county commission. There's 11 of them. They meet every month. They're the governing body of the system, library system. And so there is a gentleman on the trustees who is a minister here in Charlotte, and a pretty prominent one. And he does a lot of fundraising for his church. And and when you have ministers, it's not like ministers are gonna be able to write you a big check. And you would never expect that and not all board members can, so that's something too, to be clear, everyone, we have various levels. But he came to me and said, I think we should do a solicitation to the churches, and you can use my name, and then I'll get another really prominent leader in Charlotte to use his name, and so we created a written solicitation to support the library's outreach efforts, because those outreach efforts really impact the overall community. I mean, we have a mobile library that's out in our community 5 days a week. It's going to library deserts, it's doing digital literacy, delivering books, programming, and they're incredible. And but it impacts their congregations and their people. And so we got a list of 180 churches in Charlotte, all the big ones, and small ones too, and we sent a solicitation out under his name and this guy's name. That was his way of saying, I wanna help, and finding what is gonna make him feel like he is contributing, using his connections. And again, he is a prominent leader in our community. And so that is a perfect example of how, like, we asked him and sat down with him and said, how can you help with the campaign? And it kind of falls under our campaign's comprehensive, so it falls under that. We also, we have a board member on the foundation side. Her husband manages Middle C Jazz Club. They hosted an event at the Jazz Club and did all that for us. A young board member, and this is a group that we're really focused on, is the 30-40s. Really starting to understand philanthropy. And we have a younger board member, she's 40, on our board, and she is fantastic and said, I'd like to host something with my sister-in-law, and they invited 40 of their friends. None of them, some of them were donors, but small donors. And it was around the campaign, but her advice to us, which was great, again, you gotta listen to your board members on this stuff, because it was their friends. She said, we can't ask them for the campaign. They're gonna be so intimidated by that, because they're gonna think it's gonna need to be a big gift, which that was not the case, but I understood the perception. She said, let's just ask them to be Carnegie Circle members. It's $1,000 a year. They could do it monthly, they could do it outright, but that's an entry point for them. And so I said, okay. So we went to this event. We got them excited about New Maine and about the library. They made the ask, and she said, and she was so good, she's like, she asked them to join the Carnegie Circle, and she said, it is our turn to take the baton. It is our turn to start supporting the community that our parents, our grandparents helped build. It is our turn, and there's a place for us, and the library needs us. And so out of those 40, we got 18 new Carnegie Circle members. That is a huge turnaround for us. And so that was just an example of the board member saying, I know the best way to approach my peers. You don't, which is very true. And let us do it. And you be the support. And that was a good lesson. And that's the other thing, is we age in our profession. The donor community that we need is getting younger. And we've got to understand that breakdown. It's so different, than like a 90-year-old in Charlotte who gives to anybody who asks because it's the best thing for the community. That generation thinks it builds community. The next generation is a little bit more like, I'm gonna give to 3 organizations and those are the ones that they have to be do with my world, right? Maybe my church, my kids' school, and whatever. Then my generation, which probably has let us down the most, is, well, I have an idea. You know, it's a little bit more, there is a little bit more ego behind it. And the younger you get, the youngest generation now, I think is gonna be the greatest generation. I really do. Maybe not monetary, but solution oriented, yes. I think this college group right now is gonna be the greatest generation in Flint. They get it, and they're putting their time and they're wanting to understand it. And to be honest with you, we put a lot on them that they have to figure out and fix. And so I'm really hopeful for that generation that's coming up. So one thing we started doing with our board, because one of our board members just rolled off, she served 7 years, and we used her in so many great ways, and she had a great experience and told us that and said, you used me so well. But that's because she was so engaged. Not every board member is engaged at all, right? And so we've started our board chair, our vice chair, and our second vice chair. And that's only just to help build the pipeline. And myself, those 3 are meeting with our board one by one and asking them, how do you want to get involved this year? And giving them options and really creating more of a board membership plan. Like, this is how I want to be used. So therefore, if someone decides they're not gonna be that engaged, that's on them then. I can quit feeling so guilty of like, why don't they come or da-da-da. Like, we beat ourselves up for that. But we're putting the onus on them now. It's like, we're gonna sit down and talk to you about all the different ways you can get engaged. Tell us what you want. How do you want to be used? And so that is something, sounds simple, it just takes a lot of time. And you have to do it authentically. And so I guess you have to do all this authentically, right? I mean, that's what really things are about. So hope that answers your question. Yeah. We also have one of our trustees, well, our legal counsel owns a brewery. And so we did a author series at the brewery because of that. So it is important to get to know your board members and all their different connections, because that's the easiest thing. It's so much easier for them to connect you than to write a check. And sometimes that connection is way more valuable. And so you gotta, again, that's understanding that interwebs. You've gotta understand like how people are connected. I know exactly where every board member and every trustee works. And every one of them gets solicited for person meeting. They might not do it, but you serve on this board, you're gonna be asked. And it's okay if you don't do it, but that is, that is part of the agreement of joining a board, so.
Speaking of the board, what do you look for in a board member? Like, if you could design the perfect board member, what would you be looking for?
Super passionate. Number one. Willingness to connect. I would put somewhere 3, capacity to give. Because if we do our jobs right, they will give. But the willingness to connect and the passion for the work, so they show up to board meetings and stuff, that's way more important. We had an incredible sheet on the paper, and she is incredible. But a huge executive in Charlotte on our board, she's amazing. She could never come. And she hated that. She ended up filling someone up, putting someone else in that seat, who's great. But she had the passion, she didn't have the capacity. And so the capacity, passion, you would like a board member, this to be one of their top 3 philanthropic focuses for sure during their time. I don't care if people are willing to ask for money. I think that's like the smallest thing. Because I don't mind asking, but it's better with them coming with me and they're making that introduction, so it's more peer-to-peer. But I think, I would say half our board is willing to ask. The other half is like, that's too much.
Yeah, I agree with that, like just that willingness to connect, because I mean, I can talk all day about our organization like you guys can, of course, and just put me in front of them.
Yeah.
That's all I want you to do,
Yeah,
you know, and then the willingness to follow through
yes.
as well with it, because there's so many great ideas that are going around the boardroom all the time, so many great ideas.
Yeah.
It's just following through with them.
Yeah. That is the huge thing, follow through,
Right.
a board member follow through.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And you do have you both have great mission.
Yeah.
What I didn't ask you before, what organization are you with?
I'm sorry, I was late.
Oh,
I'm in
don't-
the wrong building.
Don't worry.
And I got turned around. I'm Natasha Witherspoon. I'm with Youth Development Initiatives,
Yeah.
YDI for short. We work with disadvantaged high school students. We service two populations. One, our kids who've been tagged by juvenile justice, who we're trying to get on the right track, give them life skills. Everybody comes up with a personalized plan for what am I going to do after high school? So whether that's a skill trade or community college or college for some, because then we work with another population who are kind of your middle of the road students who just need some more guidance. And I am new to this nonprofit world. Kelly knows that. I've been in marketing for all of my career and made a pivot this summer. So I am a director of philanthropy and I've been learning a lot since August about development, fundraising, all of the stuff you're talking about, telling the story, so.
I would say, I used to always tell folks if I ever did talk around fundraising, I think it's about anything, but for us professionally, I think one of the biggest things is do what you say you're gonna do. I think that if you don't follow through, see a project through, do what you say you're gonna do, you're not worth much. And I think that integrity in this profession is the biggest, most important thing. That's really all you have in this profession, your reputation. And a lot of professions, but I think people are trusting you with their resources and being able to, you deal with some donors that are just, give me the facts, like a corporation, whatever. And you gotta be able to do that. Or some really want to work with you for 3 years before they make a decision. And you've gotta be flexible and be able to work in all of that minutia. And so you just always gotta do what you say you're gonna do, or else the organization loses out. So it's a lot of on your shoulders as fundraising professionals. It's like, you're kind of that line between the donor and the organization and for financial success. So I don't mean to scare you, but it is a lot, but it also is a privilege, a real privilege, an opportunity that you get to carry that opportunity, carry that weight,
So in listening to Natasha talk, so Natasha comes out of marketing like she said, and I remember you said that one of the best hires you made is your marketing communication person. You got 3 fundraisers and a marketing person. A marketing person is a hard sell, even though I know that we need one. It's a hard sell when you have seemingly more important things that you need to focus on in an organization. Can you talk about the return on the investment of hiring a marketing person and how that person has positively impacted your organization?
Well, messaging, consistent messaging, staying in front of the community all the time in a consistent trickle. If your message is not out, it's really hard. Your fundraiser's doing a lot of work to always tell that message instead of, do you get a fundraiser or marketing? Yes, you do. But there are different ways to market. There's internships you could, offer for people to come in and do marketing, especially social media, where let's be honest, I am not your best social media person.
Me neither.
And because one, I don't like it, but two, I don't understand it as well. And so I think your marketing it's the messaging and that consistency and staying in front of the community. It is competitive out there. I mean, you're competing in that space with tons of other organizations. And for us, we couldn't rely on the library's small marketing team. The messaging was different. I didn't trust that was needy. I wanted our messaging out when I wanted it out. And I don't want to be on their timetable. That I would have been second fiddle because that's not what we're supposed to do. And so we quickly said, we gotta create our own. And it had nothing to do with quality or anything like that. It's just we had a lot of goals put on us, especially with the campaign. We have just been really lucky to have someone like Maggie who has that passion and that expertise. She can design, write, and do PR. But also something she's brought in, and this is something that could be helpful to you, is, she brought in a media buyer for us. Never used a media buyer before.
Of what?
A media buyer. So they go out, it's an independent person here in Charlotte. She works with companies all over the country, and they buy media ads or placements, and they buy packages. So you say, here's how much we can spend. But what they do, at least ours does, we end up getting 4 times the value in kind from her. So billboard spaces. She has all the relationships with all the billboard companies, and they need people to fill those billboards. And a lot of times, they'll give it to nonprofits. You just have to know. We pay her a pretty small fee quarterly, a retainer. And I never knew much about that. And Maggie came from an agency background, and she said, media buying. And it turns out she just gets us so much more than we could ever get on our own. And it's really been, and I would say, we don't have a large marketing budget. It's like $25,000 a year. It's not a huge marketing budget. But we maximize it. And then in-kind partnerships like WFAE. Their donor base is so hand in hand with our donor base, right? So we give them a table at Versambino, and they give us, $5,000 worth of media ads. So you barter, you go into these partnerships, and that helps us build up, like WFE, we've done that with. Axios, I would stay away from personally, unless someone can give you their buy, or a company gives you their buy. That package a year is $25,000 below. Yeah. They give you quite a little bit, but they're really expensive. So there is ways to work with these companies, and that's where somebody who's been doing this while, you can just say, who's your contact there, and then start that relationship.
I was just gonna say, in one of my corporate roles, for us to even get billboard space, we had a barter system with one of the billboard companies where we gave them product and then they gave us billboard space. So that's something where if you have a board member who's plugged in into marketing, I know there are agencies here who they allot some of the larger ones make it very competitive, but some of them will do, like she said, they'll do marketing work for a certain number of nonprofits a year. So they might be willing to come up with a plan for you, they'll say, okay, we'll do 3 months worth of work, or this is worth $50,000 in kind, or we'll work on your website. We'll rebrand you, stuff like that. But that's where it really, like you were saying, with the connections with your board members,
You recruit your board members based on those needs.
Based on those needs, you just don't need a board full of attorneys and accountants, you need people in different spaces who have those different connections.
Exactly.
But I can give you some names, Kelly.
Yeah. And and this all takes doing this for 12 years. A lot of trial and error. And so 12 years, that's something too. Again, you gotta stick with it. It just takes a while and anytime your board tells you, like, you need to turn this around and raise this much money by this amount of time, be careful. Like, fundraising, to build the pipeline and to do it right, it takes a while. And you're gonna get one of these big hits every once in a while, you're gonna be like, yes, I deserve that. Those are special days.
What's the goal for the breaking ground?
The timeline? We hope by end of 2026. So we are looking to be in the building by the fall, and then it'll take a while to get it filled up, and probably our goal is by end of year to have the ribbon cutting celebration on 26. So yeah. I need 12 million more dollars. Don't point me, to be honest.
Well, I'll spend that $2 million came to me earlier.
Yeah. Figure out that stuff. Well, thank you guys so much for. I'm gonna send this to you if you want, and I also have these samples up there.
Yeah.
That's unique.